topic I chose is poverty in the U.S. because I believe that it's a major issue for this country and it has often been overlooked and has been plagued by misunderstandings by the general public for quite some time. The ways we deal with poverty in this country have never really been organized or anything like that, and it is often achieved really bad results. And this is reflected by what Grace Abbott, a social worker in the early 20th century, said. We have proceeded along in a stumbling fashion, trying one method of care after another, and often moving from bad to worse and back again. And this is really the way it has been in her time and ever since. And things in this country, compared to a lot of other first world countries, are pretty bad considering things. In 1991, surveys showed that 12.4% of the people aged over 65 were impoverished, while children, 21.1% of them were considered impoverished. More recent surveys in 2006 showed that 36.5 million people in the country were impoverished, and that's about 1 in 8 in every people. And they were living below the poverty line of about $20,164 a year. People living in deep poverty, which means they make about half that, numbered about 15 million. Poverty rates for children in this country are also pretty high compared to others. In the U.S., 20.4% of children are considered impoverished, while countries like Britain, France, and Germany aren't even half that number. And the ways we deal with this problem is, well, Americans have always disagreed about what to do with its poorest citizens, and it really falls between two camps. Liberal ideology that emphasizes race as being the primary problem, and conservative views which stresses culture, such as values, attitudes, and habits. While I think that these do play a part, they really don't account for the whole situation, in my opinion. The main problem a lot of people agree on is technology change. Right after World War II, the U.S. was an industry-based economy that relied on a very large number of unskilled workers. But as technology has advanced more and more over the time, it is needed to rely on more college-educated employees instead of relatively uneducated, low-skilled workers. And this has left them all poor and often out of the job, and it's gradually gone worse and worse over time. The declining college graduates, hinting at all of you, by the way, have also been on the decline. And as has the influx of poor immigrants in recent years. This has all contributed to that. Not that the government itself hasn't tried in the past to deal with this. In 1960, the Johnson administration declared war on poverty. And this was reflected by the attitudes that a lot of people were feeling about the impoverished. In 1960s, the impoverished people who considered the impoverished were uneducated, homeless, in bad health, and suffering from high levels of stress. And the Johnson administration's policies enabled the impoverished population of 40 million people in 1960, which account for 22% of the population, to gradually decrease over a 15-year period down to 12%. But then in the 1970s, things started to change. People started to regard the impoverished as cheaters and not really deserving of the benefits that they were given in the 60s. And this really has not changed over time ever since. And the way things are now, things don't really seem don't seem to be improving, and they're not likely to improve over the next decade. And considering the way the economy is now and the bad press that the impoverished are continuing to receive from everyone else, it really doesn't seem like things will change in the near future. But I'm hoping that if people become better informed, they're more willing to help those in need, and things will eventually improve as time goes on.